So today we're going to be focusing on making some pies, gearing up for Thanksgiving. First thing I wanted to say was just, a lot of people are scared about making pies, but really just give them a try. They're a lot of fun and they're super easy and they are fantastic to eat. So what I have here, I have everything ready to get going on our pie. You're going to need a pastry cutter, some butter or shortening. It depends on your preference. Shortening will make the pastry a little flaky and really good. It just depends on what kind of pastry crust you're going for. So if you want something a little more flaky, use a shortening. If you want something a little more flavorful, use a butter. I like to just use butter just because I like the flavor that it gives. And I've got our flour mixed up here and a pinch of salt in there already mixed up, which will help bring out the flavor of the crust, and then some cold water. So first what we're going to do is we're going to add in our butter, about 2/3 cup of butter, and our flour, about 2 cups flour. Next, just use your pastry cutter, and we're just going to kind of mix this in. Now, as we are mixing, you don't want to get too small of crumbs in there. We want to blend the flour and the butter together, but we want to leave them in kind of big pieces because it will help incorporate bigger pieces will incorporate better once we add the water. So you want to go for just big chunks. Normally recipes will call for about pea-size chunks of butter, but just do something big chunks of butter and flour. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add in about 1 tablespoon at a time of cold water. We're going to do about 4 to 5 tablespoons of water. We want to make the pastry dough moist but not wet. And just slowly do it one at a time. Add it in and do another one. So here's number 2, and we just keep mixing it in. And if you need to, just go ahead and clear off your pastry cutter. And you can, as you are mixing it, you can start to feel that it's getting a little thicker, a little harder to use that pastry cutter, but that's what you want. So number 3, cold water. Don't worry if you spill a little bit. We're going to be moving this pastry dough onto the counter to roll it out. So we can just incorporate it in then. And once it starts to get pretty thick, if you prefer to use your hands, go ahead and use your hands. Don't be scared to just get it dive in there and get messy. It's all right. I think I'm a messy cooker, but okay, so here's about 4. Just keep mixing it in there until it gets a nice consistency of what we're going for. Remember, moist, not wet. There's a difference. And if you get it too moist, it'll just make it a little harder to roll out because it'll have a tendency to want to stick to the counter or absorb the flour that you put on the counter. So here's number 5. It's turning out really, really good. It's exactly what we want. Exactly what we want. That's perfect. It's getting in there nice. Okay, so now you can see we've got this nice consistency of dough. It's not too wet, but it's moist. So now what we're going to do is just add it onto our counter and we're going to roll it out. Now, one of the tricks to rolling out pastry dough is to use flour, but to keep moving your dough as you're rolling it out. So sprinkle some flour down. Simple as that. And what we're going to do is just move our pastry dough onto the counter. So just kind of form it and work with your hands for just a little bit. Okay, now make sure there is flour on the counter, but also make sure that you have flour on the top of your pastry as well. Now, while we're rolling this out, we're going to be rolling it out into a circle, but keep it moving. Keep adding flour underneath it. You can even flip the pastry dough over, and that helps it to not stick to the counter. So just as you're rolling it out, just do a little bit at a time. Roll it out just a little bit and rotate it, grabbing some flour, flip it over, and then continue. Now pies are circled, so if you can try to make it go in a circle, that will help out later, but it doesn't have to be perfect. A lot of the times you have lots of edges that will hang over your pie pan, so we can just cut all that off. So even if you make it a little bit bigger than what you need, that's just fine. If you need more flour, just add some more flour. It's no big deal. Just keep rolling this out until you have about the size that you need. Now remember, you need it to be about as round as your pie dish, but you have the depth that you need to incorporate in there too. So you're going to need bigger than what you think you need. Just keep rolling it out. And use your hands to lift it up and incorporate more flour. More flour, throw it under there. Don't let it stick. Just keep rotating, and that's the key. Dough, pastry dough for pies is pretty forgiving, so if it comes apart somewhere, just squish it together. Pie is one of my most favorite things to eat. Pecan pie, I think, is my favorite, and that's what we're going to be working on today. It's a pecan pie. So I had some cracks just here on the sides, so I'm just going to use my fingers to just kind of, press them together. Okay, so I think we have about the size we need. So now one thing to do to help is you can roll it onto your rolling pin. Have our dish here. Now we're just going to unroll it onto our pie pan. See how easy that was? So easy, you guys. Don't be scared of a pie. Okay, now just make sure you incorporate into the depth. Help it sink down so that it doesn't tear. You don't want it to tear, but help it sink. Sink down in there. Pressing the extra in there. Go. Looks pretty darn good, you guys. Okay, now we're just going to work on making it pretty. These edges. Nobody wants a pie that's going to have all these long edges hanging off. So we're going to take a knife and just slice off this extra that we have going around. So just go around the outside. Follow your pie pan to get a nice, crisp, clean edge. Try not to go up and down, but try to go up and saw forward, and then lift it up, pull it away, so that it can get a nice streamlined pie edge all the way around. There we go. We just have this nice size. Extra dough is always fun to just roll out, throw a little cinnamon and sugar on it, and bake it. It is so good, just plain. Okay, so we have our pie all ready. Nice and even edges all the way around. So it's looking pretty good. Now what we want to do is just work on making this edge pretty. So you can crimp it. You can do a few things. You can use 2 fingers and 1 finger and press it down to have that scallopy edge, which is nice. There we go. We've got these nice pretty edges all around. Now, there's a few different things that you can do to help your pie crust turn out great. If you're making a pie that is going to be a little bit more of a soggy pie, so like a pecan or a pumpkin, you can pre-bake your crust. just for a little bit, for 15 minutes. And then you can incorporate everything inside and go ahead and finish baking it the rest of the time. You can also just go ahead and put it in there and just bake it how you normally would anything else. I like it. Mine usually turns out just great, and so I usually just like to incorporate everything in there when the pie crust is all ready and primed. Our pie is all ready. It's pretty and crimped. Now we're going to just add the good stuff in. So I've got our pecans. I'm just going to throw those in first. I've got some melted butter, 1 cup of Caro syrup that we're going to add in. Just let all the good stuff drip out. And I went ahead and mixed up my eggs with some sugar in them already. We're just going to mix all this stuff up with all together, our eggs and sugar. Make sure you scrape the bottom if you pre-mix these together, because that sugar is going to sink. So just make sure you get all that good stuff out. I'm just going to mix it together. It's going to be so good. I love Thanksgiving. I love the pies. I love the food. I do a pecan pie every year. I'd love to hear what your guys' favorite pies are. I think I stick to more of the traditional kind, but I know there's so many different kinds of pies out there that everybody loves. Alright, so that's pretty incorporated. Now just pour it on top of all those yummy, yummy pecans. Oh, you guys, this is going to be so good. It's going to be so good. Alright, so make sure you get all that yummy stuff out. Now, if you're watching, your pecans are going to kind of float to the top, and that is just fine. That's what we want. There we go. Now we're just going to throw this in the oven for about 50 minutes or until it's done. Now remember, always set your timer for under what the recipe calls for to ensure that you don't burn what you're actually baking. Also, one thing I like to do when I am making a pie to make sure that this crust doesn't come out burnt or overdone is I'll just take some pieces of tin foil and just fold them over the edges. Now, the pie crust will still bake, even though it does have this over there, but this way it won't get them too done and burnt. You want it to be, nice and pretty and golden brown. So I just like to just throw some tin foil over there so that the elements in the oven can't actually heat up that butter in our pie crust too much to cause it to burn. So I just wrap these all the way around, just gently fold them over. It doesn't need to be pressed down into the pie crust, just enough over the edge of the pie crust to keep them from burning. I like this trick because pie crust is my favorite part of the pie. But if it's overdone, I don't like overdone pie crust. So just make sure that if you don't like overdone pie crust, you better make some protection for that pie crust then. Okay, it is all ready. It doesn't look very pretty to bake, but it'll come out gorgeous when we're done. So we're going to throw it in the oven for about 50 minutes. But again, I'm going to set my timer for probably around 45, maybe 42, just to be safe. And there we go. Our pie is all done and out of the oven. Show you guys how beautiful beautiful this looks. Now we're just gonna let it cool, and it will be ready to go on Thanksgiving when we are ready to eat it all gone. A pie is good on the counter for a day. After that, you need to refrigerate it. A pie crust can be made up 5 days before you actually need it, with no filling inside. But if you are going to go anything over a day of leaving the pie on a counter, make sure you return it back to the fridge so that you can continue enjoying it for as long as until it's gone. Okay, thanks for watching. Make sure you share, comment, subscribe, and enjoy.